Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. We are 1 week into impeachment hearings. We've had 2 days of hearings last week. We have 3 this week. And just in the window of the last 72 hours, we've gotten a lot of information. One basic top line is clear, and it is this. Things are not great for the president right now. In fact, it literally was not a great weekend for the president overall. He was rushed to Walter Reed Hospital on Saturday alongside the White House physician. He spent more than 2 hours at that hospital. It was not a planned trip. It was nowhere on his public schedule that day. White House is now saying the president just popped over to the hospital to get a head start on his annual physical exam for 2020, which seems weird. But that happened over the weekend. And generally, it feels like from the very moment that Trump's call notes from that infamous call with the Ukrainian president were released, things have only really moved in one direction in terms of the picture of the facts. Every news story only adds further details of the scope and the insidiousness of the president's shadow operation to extort Ukraine into helping him win re-election. Right before our show on Friday, we learned that a State Department official told Congress that he overheard a phone conversation where the president himself asked the U.S. ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, if the Ukrainian president was, quote, gonna do the investigation. He also testified that after the phone call, Sondland agreed, quote, the president did not give an S about Ukraine. He also learned more about just how long ago the Ukraine scheme was hatched. CNN reports that at the White House Hanukkah party last year, back in December of 2018, Rudy Giuliani's indicted associates, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, met with just Giuliani and President Trump during the Hanukkah party, apparently, in some room. And according to the report, the conversation turned to Ukraine, and, quote, Parnas said that the big guy, as he sometimes referred to the president conversation, talked about tasking him and Fruman with what Parnas described as a secret mission to pressure the Ukrainian government to investigate Joe Biden and his son. A secret mission to pressure the Ukrainian government to meddle in the U.S. election against his political rival. And then on Saturday, an official from the Office of Management and Budget, a career civil servant, a guy named Mark Sandy, told Congress in behind closed doors testimony in a deposition that he was so concerned about the White House freezing that military aid to Ukraine, quote, he raised questions to the OMB's general counsel about whether the move violated the Congressional Budget and Impoundment Control Act of 1974. Over the weekend, we also got the deposition transcripts of Vice President Mike Pence's Russia advisor, Jennifer Williams. She was actually on the July 25th call with Trump and the Ukrainian president. She testified that Trump's talk about investigations, quote, struck me as unusual and inappropriate. The president, over the weekend, attacked her on Twitter, saying she should, quote, read the transcript and calling her a never-Trumper. Here's the thing. Jennifer Williams does not need to read the transcript. She listened to the call as it happened in real time. It's also weird and laughable to call her a never-Trumper, seeing as she works in the White House now. She was the hand-picked person to work on the vice president's staff, a detailee from the State Department. Now, Williams has a key role this week, and she is one of the people who will be testifying tomorrow. That's at 9:30 in the morning. She's going to be there alongside Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, who was also on the president's phone call and was so alarmed by what he heard that he immediately reported it to the National Security Council's top lawyer. So tune in tomorrow. There will be 3 days of hearings this week. And by all counts, there will be tens of millions of Americans watching. New ABC Ipsos poll shows 58% of Americans say they're following the hearings very closely or somewhat closely. And the main idea of the hearings, at least from the Democrats' perspective, does seem to be getting through. 70% think President Trump's request to a foreign leader to investigate his political rival was wrong. But it's not just polling that shows this. There are real-world political events that have happened in the last few weeks since impeachment started, none of which have been particularly encouraging for the president. It was just 2 weeks ago that Trump went down to Kentucky the night before the election for governor, and the very next day, the Democratic challenger won in a state that Trump had carried by 22 points. Then last week, same play. Trump goes down to Louisiana, a state that he won by 20 points, to support the Republican challenger for governor. And it was clear that that Kentucky loss was still on Trump's mind.
And the headlines the next day, Trump took a loss. I lift him up a lot. So Trump took a loss. So you got to give me a big win, please, okay? Okay?
So in President Trump's view, the election is a test of his political capital and power, and he went down there to tell everyone that explicitly. And then Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards was reelected just days later. It's not crazy to think that impeachment might have had some kind of pro-Republican backlash effect in red states, but that is not what is happening. The president went to Kentucky and Louisiana in back-to-back weeks to explicitly say, hey, electorate, this is a test of impeachment. Please send the message you are against it. And both times, the message the electorate sent back was just the opposite. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.